Good evening. My name is Sergeant Shoemaker. I'm the traffic sergeant assigned to the Santa Clarita Valley Station. And basically, anything related to traffic in the valley inside the city area or city boundaries comes to my office when it comes to the enforcement and investigations part of it. I've been with the Sheriff's Department for 26 years. I've been at Santa Clarita Station from 2003 to 2012, working patrol, and then I left for 2 years when I promoted to sergeant, went to another station, and then came back in 2014 and worked patrol for a little bit back as a supervisor, and then was assigned to the traffic office. I'll let you do an introduction.
Yeah,
I guess we'll get into other stuff.
I'm Joshua Greengard of the California Highway Patrol Newhall area office. I have close to 10 years on. I've been out here all my life. I came to the Newhall office in 2010, broke in West LA. I'm the public information officer out here, so I know a lot about traffic. I actually review a lot of the traffic collisions that come through our area office. You want to talk about traffic?
Sure.
Okay.
Just give you a few things that have been going on with us lately. Obviously, the one that's been big in the news recently has been the fatal collision on Golden Valley and Valley Center Drive on October 6th. Today, we made an arrest in that. It went out about 2 hours ago, if you haven't seen that. A female 21-year-old had a blood alcohol point of 0.21 at the time of the collision or shortly after. She came in and surrendered to our station today once we let her lawyer know that we were going to arrest her. So she's in custody, and that'll just start the court process that will follow. Over the last probably 2 years, actually 2 years this month, I think, we've been working with the city on really a traffic safety plan. It's being geared through 3 different channels. Education, which is mostly coming from the city office, and that's billboards, programs at the schools, banners. There's PSAs that are playing in the movie theaters, things along that line. There's an engineering aspect, which is the city traffic engineers, which is if they have issues at certain intersections or roadway stretches, they will reevaluate that, and if they feel there's a safer way of changing the lighting or the road structure, things like that, they work on that aspect of it. And then the enforcement part of it is our end of it, and that's really simply what that is enforcement. The city they realized over the last several years our crashes are going up. The citations were kind of holding steady and down a little bit in one of the years. So they've proactively gone after it, and we've increased our motor enforcement officers. We now have 6 motors and a sergeant, and that's probably going to increase in the next 1 to 2 years to 1 to 2 more motor officers. And the motors have one job, and that's to write tickets. They don't handle calls for service. They don't write crashes unless they actually roll up on it or observe the crash. They are ticket machines. It's not about revenue. It's not about, honestly, the city gets very little money from traffic citations, the way the fines are broken down. It's about slowing people down. Really, that's our biggest concern. Last year, Sierra Highway, we had 6 fatal collisions with, I believe it was 8 dead or 7 dead. Sierra Highway has got a ton of attention lately in the last year to year and a half. And they, like I said, these guys go out, they start early in the morning and they work through the evening most days of the week. And like I said, they have one job. And they are lowering our crashes. We just had another meeting about 2 weeks ago with the city, or our team, the 3 aspects of it. And all of our numbers are generally looking good for crashes going down and citations going up, which is kind of what our focus was from our aspect of it. We've designated 10. When we first started this, we designated 10 areas across the city that really had the highest collision rates. between non-injury collisions up to fatals. And with that, the motors have been designated to spend a lot of their time in those 10 areas throughout the days, and they move around. We also get a lot of requests from residential neighborhoods and then other roads in the city, just people that travel them and think they see dangerous driving. So the motors do shift around. They're not just locked into those 10 spots. They do move around, but the vast majority of their time is in those 10 areas. And it's generally the bigger roadways with higher speeds, higher speed limits. People seem to have an idea that if the speed limit's 50, 58 to 65 is okay. And we're trying to change that a little bit. So that's really what mostly I've been doing. My office deal is, I have 2 detectives that work for me, and we average anywhere from about 150 to 220 collisions a month that these 2 guys have to review and approve all of the reports, on top of any major collisions or fatals that we get called out to, and then we take the handle on those. We do have some new technology that was bought for us. It's a 3D collision scene scanner, and it takes millions of points of measurements on a collision and takes photographs on top of that, and it overlays everything on top of each other, and it puts out an incredible 3-dimensional photograph or a computer program that we can look at a collision with great detail from any angle, from a top, below, inside the collision, looking out. It's an incredible piece of hardware that we're still learning on it, but it's a great tool that we're starting to use now. Unfortunately, it's used during our fatals, but it really helps us out a lot, and it shortens our time out in the field. That's kind of what I've got. I will let him talk a little bit, and then we'll, I guess, get to some questions if you guys have those.
Okay, well, the Newhall area predominantly has about 674 square miles of coverage that we do. We cover from the 5 freeway and the 14 freeways are our major arteries. The 5 freeway from the 118 all the way to a little bit north of the 138. 14 freeway from the conception of the 5 all the way to about Acton. It's Ward Road, or better known as Red Rover Mine. We also have a lot of unincorporated areas. The Old Road, Hasley Canyon, Sierra Highway, Soledad Canyon, Agua Dulce Canyon, some of Clarita Canyon, about this much now. We don't have very much of it anymore. I don't think we have any Sand Canyon until it gets into Bear Divide, but Lake Hughes and everything north or anything west of the 5 freeway. So we do have a lot of unincorporated area. Last few months we've allocated more officers towards those canyon roads to do enforcement, Bouquet Canyon and San Francisco Canyon in particular. If we have a particular amount, if we have enough units or the priority is enough, we will allocate 1 unit or 2 units to hit those canyon roads, and that's their sole job that day, is to write tickets and to take the crashes that are on those roads. Predominantly, the Newhall area office takes about 300 crashes a month, and we write about, between the 70-some officers that we have, the 70-some uniform officers that we have, we write close to 3,000 tickets a month. Most of those are on the 5 freeway. I could tell you in August we wrote 168 tickets in San Francisco Canyon. That was probably only about 2 or 3 officers there, throughout the month. Sporadic, not every day that were they there, but 3 or 4 days out of the week they were there. We don't try to specifically say Mondays we're going to go out here, because then everyone will know where we're going to be at, right? Like I said, we're out there to catch the speeders. You don't want to announce that we're there. There is apps that will tell you that we're there, though. For as far as traffic, I don't have too much else other than the stats that I just provided. I guess we could open up to question and answers. Question and answers. Is that okay? Yeah. I don't know how we do this. Do we usually walk up to the mic or hand mics? Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I'm Steve from the Saugus area, and I was just wondering, regarding pedestrians going on crosswalks, I'm confused as to what the actual law is as to when you can begin or do the turn if there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk, and what is your standard for enforcement, and does that differ from the law?
I'm going to confuse you more. It's actually a very simple law. The law says if a driver shall yield to a pedestrian in a crosswalk. That's all it says. That means if a pedestrian's in a crosswalk, curb to curb, you can't turn. So it's a very simple, very written rule. Here's the confusion part. We've done several sting operations under my office in the last couple months. We talk about, before we leave the station, all the officers are in agreement, or the deputies are in agreement. If we're on a large roadway, Valencia Boulevard, McBean Parkway, which is one we've done an operation on, so I'll use that as my example. If the pedestrian is on the same side of the roadway as the center median, as the car is going to turn, we'll write that ticket. If the pedestrian's on the opposite side of the center median from where the car is going to turn, we will not write that ticket. And the reason for that is these are big intersections, and if we wait for the pedestrians to cross all the way across on these big intersections, traffic would be at a standstill. And we understand that. Our job isn't there to just create gridlock. That's their job.
That's traffic's job. That's people crashing.
No, we're kind of adding a little confusion into it the way we're doing on enforcement. I have never written a citation for somebody that's, again, on the opposite side of a center median. There's no safety issue with that in my eyes. This is where we kind of, I don't know of a deputy that would write that citation, that if the pedestrian's on the far side and the car is going to make a right turn. Can they write that citation? Yes, they can. And then it's up to the courts to decide how that's going to be interpreted through that court. I've been in court against one of these tickets, and the judge's specific words were, it's curb to curb. So if you turned, regardless, it's curb to curb. That's the way the law is written. And the person was found guilty. We're not here to punish people and just, if we tried to write it or wrote those citations like that, we would write twice as many tickets as we're writing now. And like I said, we would have just traffic at a gridlock. And that's not our goal. Our goal is, in what we write, is the people on the same side of the center median as the car, or the pedestrian on the same side of the median is where the car is going to turn. And probably more often than not, the car is turning right behind the person, or they'll go out around them and cut in front of them. For the operations we've done this year, I was the one that was calling them out to the deputies to write, and all of them were in that situation. So I know there's been a lot on social media of, we're just writing these BS tickets. It's not true. If it's just that median is my guideline, and all of our officers, the deputies, agree to it before we even leave the station. Because if they're going to disagree and say, no, if it's curb to curb, I want them on that side too, we're going to have a little discussion about that, and he would have to explain to me some safety issues on it. And then when we go to court on these, there's two people that get subpoenaed: myself, because I'm the one that called it out, and my name gets put on the citation, and then the officer that issues the citation to the driver, and we both have to come in and testify on those. And so these people that want to fight it, I'll be the one going in to testify against it. So.
What's the classification for Bouquet and Soledad?
For Bouquet and Soledad?
Uh-huh.
It would be the same. The medium would be my rule.
Okay, but do you realize it takes you a lot longer to get across Valley when you're obeying the law and waiting for everybody? It just does. I get a kick out of it because I'm stopped, appropriately when you're supposed to, and you're not. And there's lines behind me, and I'm going, wait, curb to curb, but not talking about Bouquet and Soledad, just various things. And it does take you longer to get across town, being, in pro with the law, which is way cool.
Traffic is traffic. Unfortunately, there's a lot of it I can't control. When, cars collide and that jacks up traffic across the valley. We've had, the last couple months, we've had several incidents on the 14 and the 5 freeway, and that destroys the valley in the morning, because if it crashes on the 14, they try to get to the 5, or vice versa. So the freeways are stopped, and then all the little funnel streets turn into the same thing, because you've got all these people trying to get across to the opposite freeway, or take San Fernando Road or Sierra Highway. So.
Hi, my name is Michelle. I live in kind of a no man's land of Newhall Canyon country off of Clarita Canyon out by the Nature Center, that Clarita Chaparral track. First of all, I wanted to tell you that I really appreciate your presence out there in the last, few months. I had, unfortunately, occasion to have interaction with both of your branches in the course of the fires, the recent fires out there. But also, I've seen you a lot, and I really appreciate it because of the advent of the other application ways, we've seen a huge increase in traffic, and I know you're all aware of this, of people cutting off down Sand Canyon and down Clarita Canyon. And what's amazing to me is how, like you were talking about, how fast they go. I mean, sometimes coming out of that little track where I am, I have to wait quite a long time because people are barreling down that hill at 60, 70, 80 miles an hour when you know what the speed limit along there is. So I thank you and I appreciate your presence. It just, sometimes I feel like I'm taking my life in my hands when I go to make that right turn onto Clarita Canyon. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I just wanted to ask, do you ever write tickets on bicyclists for operating their bicycles unsafely? I see bicycles all the time riding on the wrong side down the street. And I feel like let me step back from that. Be nice, Steve. I see bicyclists and pedestrians many times in violation of the law, and I think that adds to the problem, and I think that sometimes the enforcement is on the automobiles rather than on persons. And is there any law against, I see people all the time with the earbuds walking or, and not paying attention or, I call it distracted walking. They're looking at their cell phones while they're crossing intersections. And so I'll leave it at that. If there's a question there, how many tickets on a month do you write against bicyclists operating their vehicles unsafely?
Okay, I'll go off. I'll start with this one. I know personally I have written bicyclists for riding their bicycle either through a red light or failing to stop at a stop sign. I can tell you that we do not have bicycle patrol out here. So if it happens where we're at and we see it and it happens right in front of us, of course the officer is going to write it. Are we actively following the bicycles and patrolling the bike paths and where they can come on and come off out of the streets? No, we are not. But I can tell you through just word of mouth at our office, bicyclists do get tickets. As far as the pedestrians with earbuds, that's just a common sense law. I mean, there's no law against it, but common sense tells you don't have two earbuds while crossing the street or looking down at your phone. I don't know, a lot of you guys probably remembered a few years ago where that girl was hit on Golden Valley and Heller Circle, something over there. And unfortunately, when there's a pedestrian outside the crosswalk and it's not reasonable for a car to know that a pedestrian would be there at nighttime, it's going to be the pedestrian's fault, especially if she has two earbuds. That's an inattention. She should have been paying attention. Obviously, the driver is somewhat at fault too. Maybe he was going faster. I don't know the whole aspect of that crash, but I do remember it. So there's blame on both parties, right? So I don't know if that answers your question.
Is it something that you write up on a report, whether somebody had earbuds?
If someone's driving with earbuds, that's a definite ticket. If someone was a vehicle versus pedestrian and one of the witnesses says, yeah, she was crossing the street and she clearly had two earbuds looking down at her phone, it goes on. There's a few pages on the first couple of pages for the traffic report, and there's check boxes, and it says cell phone use, yes, and then you could put inattention, earbuds, both ears were occupied, both earbuds. So I mean, it does get documented.
Real quick, tinted windows.
You can't have them. From the B pillar forward, you can't have them. Doesn't matter what kind of tint. It has to be removable. Like Oh, no, it has to be removable when I or Sergeant Shoemaker or another deputy or officer comes upon your car. Removable meaning it's one of those sticky ones that has like clear, they're usually black or gray and they're perforated and they have suction cups on them and you put them against the window. Perfectly fine for the front two side windows. I wouldn't recommend them for your windshield because you're not going to be able to see very well out of it. But that's removable. Yes, the tinted window is removable, but not right then and there. So anything forward of the B pillar, which is the front door forward, you can't have them.
So like my son had purchased an Interceptor, and that had the tinted windows.
Probably an old captain car.
But was that legal, or should he have the tint removed?
It's not. So I tell people it's not illegal to get it put on. It's not. It's illegal once you get on a public street and start driving with it, right? A lot of.
Okay, I'm going to just be quiet now.
Yeah. So the tint places are going to tell you, hey, you can't drive this on the street, but if you want to have a show car and park it in the parking lot or drive around in your cul-de-sac of being a gated community, because gated communities are not public streets; they're private streets.
But is there a degree of tint that can be applied?
Yes, 0. I'm sorry. You can get the clear tint that blocks UV, and it's like a 0% tint, but it's 0% tint. But it is a film that blocks more UV. Yeah.
It's my understanding that there are not supposed to be any trucks on the connector. Is that the case? And if so, are there like small commercial trucks, or what is the rule there? And is there anything that we can do if we find them there?
You can definitely call 911 and report it. Most trucks, anytime that's 3 axles or more, should not. You're talking about the 514 interchange where the truck routes are at, right?
I'm talking about the connector from 14 out to 5, Golden Valley out to, if you take it from 14 around.
Yeah. I don't believe I've ever seen any sort of like over 26,000 pound signs. Have you? I know north of the old road, or our offices, they can't go north of the old road past Rye Canyon because their scales are bypassing the scales. But on the Newhall Ranch, no, they can be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Case in point, school buses over there, especially across from the fire station on Soledad.
Okay. By Solomon?
Yeah. Stop on both sides. You see cars slamming on their brakes, in front of the fire station coming one way, and a school bus on the, south side, with their sign out. And are you supposed to stop on both sides?
If it's not a
If
center
it's
divider.
a divided highway, then you don't have to stop on the westbound side, which would be the fire station side. I have a motor officer that sits there probably twice a week and gets 1 or 2 citations, well, usually 1, every time he's there. And that's probably one of the most expensive tickets you can get without going over 100 miles an hour. It's very, very expensive.
Yeah, worst area for jaywalkers. That section between 7-Eleven and the fire station there, terrible.
Right.
You going to tell them what 2 days they're there?
My name's Jerry Bloom, and I'm probably doing just a little bit of venting here. I live in Agua Dulce. Okay. I come on to Sierra Highway every morning. Actually, 5 adult members of my house come Sierra Highway. All my offices are at Lyons and Newhall Avenue, so I come down Sierra Highway all the way to Newhall Avenue. There is not one morning that I come down that highway that I don't see flagrant disregard for speed laws and hazardous driving. I mean, it is horrendous. I know that there's probably other places like that. I just know the one I drive. And the presence of the sheriff, whether it be a bike or a cruiser, I don't see that a lot there. And again, I know that this is a big valley, but I just needed to say that.
Well, I can tell you, sir, you're talking about the 2-lane road on Sierra Highway, right?
Sure.
Okay. How we mitigated and how we delegated our officers on Bouquet Canyon and San Francisco Canyon was from people calling our office. So you can call the Highway Patrol office because that is our area. If you keep calling, I can guarantee you there will be an officer out there. They always say the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So if you continue to call and make a constituent complaint and tell them, you got to tell them the approximate times, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning to 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, between Sierra Highway and Agua Dulce, all the way down to wherever, well, until our jurisdiction ends right there and it picks up into the city. If you continue to call our office, I'm fairly low on this totem pole. I could put the complaint in, but it's always better talking to a sergeant that's working that day, because he will make sure that his guys, one of the guys, go out there. So if I can give you the phone number in a little bit, or you can Google it, whatever you want. If you continue to call our office, we will send an officer out there, just like we've sent an officer out to San Francisco Canyon and Bouquet Canyon. You'll just get put on that rotation, and they'll go out there 1 or 2 times out of the week, sometimes 2 or 3 times out of the week, depending on what they feel like, and they'll write tickets. And I can guarantee you, since we started doing this on San Francisco Canyon, there would be multiple days that we would get over 100 miles an hour people on that. San Francisco Canyon, multiple people would be going over 100 miles an hour. One of our officers would write 20 to 30 tickets in a 7 or 8 or 9 hour shift. So I can guarantee you, if you do that, call us, get that officer, because he's a ticket writing machine. That's all the guy does too. He just writes tickets. And he goes out there once or twice a week. It'll slow people down. They seeing the paint and the stickers on the doors and the back of the car, I can guarantee it slows me down when I'm in my personal car. I don't want to get stopped by his people. I don't want to get stopped by my own people.
What do you mean, my people? I'll just add to that our area from the city limit down, which was basically the COC sign, or that signal up there southward, we've hammered that in the last probably 15 months or so. I'm probably in excess of 500 citations, all times of the day. We're there on a regular basis. They were there yesterday. When I was driving into work, one of my motors was driving up, and he was writing tickets up there.
I've seen
So,
you a lot in that section. It's above going to Agua Dulce Canyon, where I come on the Sierra Highway, and from that point to the school.
right. I know we've helped out with CHP a little bit through a request from, or cooperation, I guess, with your captain, our captain, residents. We've been up there a little bit, but because of our contract is a city contract, we don't spend a lot of time up north of the city limit for that reason.
I'll put, when I get back to work in the morning, I'll put the complaint in, but it all, like I said, coming from me, coming to a meeting, it really helps with when the person calls the next day or the day after, say, hey, I went to the meeting, I talked to Officer Greengard, he said all I got to do is put a complaint in. Can you maybe have an officer out there one day out of the week from Agua Dulce to Sand Canyon-ish area, Vasquez Canyon, whatever, wherever you're seeing the egregious passing over double yellows or speeding. We'll go out there. No worries.
Hi, I'm Chris Roderick, and I live in Friendly Valley. And in the continuing saga of things you can and cannot do when there's a divided road, the other question that comes up a lot is there's sirens, lights and sirens, fire engines, whatever else. I've always thought, and it may be lovely that you haven't caught me yet, that if I'm on a divided road and the lights and sirens are on the same side of the road as me, I better damn well pull over. If there's a divider, I mean, have to go bump, bump, bump over divider, then it's okay to keep going on the other side. Although I have seen some of my friends and colleagues stop cold in lane 3 when they see lights and sirens coming the other way on the far side of the median. So how long am I going to jail?
I'll answer part of this. You can add to it. One of the second most frustrating thing that I do or have done is rolling with my lights and sirens on. When you're a new deputy, it's fun. once you've done it for a while and you've been in a crash, it's not fun anymore. And if I'm trying to get from the station to Canyon Country at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, once I get to about Camp Plenty, the only way I can get to the other end of Canyon Country is to go on the opposite sides of the traffic, because that traffic is, the eastbound side is just stopped, and there's a ton of traffic. So what the law says, you pull to the right and stop on either side, and it's for that reason. Fire trucks and ambulances don't generally hop curbs too much, but radio cars can, and depending on the emergency we're trying to get to, if it's a property crime where someone's breaking into a car, the deputies aren't going to be as energetic to get there, but if it's a baby not breathing or somebody having a heart attack, we're trying to get there, or a deputy involved in a fight, we're trying to get there, and we need that.
You have my sincere apology. And
So
it shall
just-
not happen again. Nor will I curse out the lady that stops in lane 3.
That's okay. I've got dents on the steering wheel from me punching it, yelling at the person in front of me. It's both sides of the stop, both sides of the roadway, pull to the right and stop. And the big part of that, too, is pulling to the right. I'd probably saying too much. Yeah, safely pull to the right. Our department policy, and every agency's got a little bit different, I'm sure, but our department policy is we cannot pass on the right. So if a car stops in the middle lane, or the number 1 lane, which would be the fast lane, and the deputy goes to make that pass because they're stopped and they're not moving, and then that person goes, oh, I got to get out of the way, and they make that turn and they hit the deputy, our deputies might be not at fault for the collision, but he's going to be at fault internally in our department, and he'll get days off for it, or she. So it's very clear for us. You pass on the right. I mean, you pass on the left. You will not pass on the right. And have I passed on the right before? Because I absolutely had to, because the people will not move. I've had to. And you're biting your teeth hoping that person doesn't try and change lanes at that point. It's a very frustrating thing we do, rolling code 3, because the people either stop in the number 1 lane or stop in front of you, or you try and get over. And honestly, when we go over the opposite lanes of traffic into oncoming traffic, we're not going fast, or at least I'm not. I'm really only going probably 10 or 15 miles an hour. But I've got to get, these lanes over here are stopped, so I'm going faster than I would have been. But it's both sides.
I concur. I agree. We will get in trouble if we pass on the right with our lights on. Most times it's more effort. If the person does want to stop in that, I know you're saying number 3 lane, it's the fast lane, the number 1 lane, we call it the number 1 lane. We have to turn our lights off, go around the vehicle, turn them back on for us not to get in trouble. So yeah, and we will get in trouble for it. I don't know how much, but we would get in trouble for it. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.